Thanks, Juan. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the June 1st community call for the Forta network. I'm going to share my screen real quick and pull up our slides for today. Okay. All right, so my name is Andy Beal. I lead ecosystem development at Forta. Everyone who's tuning in via StreamYard or YouTube should be able to see the slides for the June 1st community call up on the screen. If you're new to the Forta community today, welcome. We're happy to have you. Forta is a decentralized network that monitors blockchain activity for threats and anomalies, and our mission is to secure Web3. The purpose of these community calls is to share updates on the product, major milestones, features, share statistics around growth and evolution of the network, current events, and also highlight cool things that are being built on Forta and the community members that are responsible for them. We have two big items on today's agenda. First is a sort of recap of the first 5 weeks of the fortification phase. And then I also want to briefly share some sort of vanity metrics around growth of the Forta network in general. And then the bulk of the discussion is going to be around Forta proposal number 1, which was as of yesterday posted on our governance forum, gov.forta.network. And that proposal is intended to approve the Forta Governance Council, which has been previously announced in blog posts. But this is the step to sort of formally adopt the initial iteration of the Governance Council. So I will briefly walk through Forta proposal number 1 and the mechanics of it, and then I will have one member of the Forta community, John Neufeld, who's a representative from Open Zeppelin, sort of talk about OZ's sort of view on this proposal and why the Governance Council is important, et cetera. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in to the fortification phase and growth overview. So a couple high-level metrics that we're really excited about. We've talked about some of this before, but just want to reiterate. We received an enormous amount of interest from node runners over the last 5 weeks, an overwhelming amount of interest, actually. Over 10,000 individuals and teams applied to run Forta nodes, which was amazing to see that sort of interest. We have over 1,300 active node runners today. Just to put that growth in perspective, when we started the fortification phase, we had somewhere between 50 and 60 nodes on the network. So it's really exciting to see, essentially 2,000% growth over the last 5 weeks. So thank you to everyone that applied. Thank you to everyone that has been running a node during the fortification phase. We're really excited with the progress. We're also really excited about, and I think somewhat relieved to see a pretty broad sort of distribution across geographies. That's obviously very important when you're trying to sort of build a decentralized network to have sort of healthy geographic distribution as well. So excited to say that we have node runners in 62 countries now across 5 continents. And the graphic here on the screen, if you're watching, is sort of represents the global footprint of the network. So thank you to everyone again who's participating in whatever country you're based in. Okay, real quick, just wanted to share a quick snapshot, current state of the Forta network. So I just mentioned we have now over 1,300 scan nodes. Most of these are individuals, which we think is really neat. We also have a number of sort of professional node runners as well as security teams that are now participating too, which is really, really exciting that we're getting the security sort of community involved in Forta in a bigger way. As most of you know, we have expanded our support beyond Ethereum. We now support 7 EVM compatible chains, and they are listed there on the screen. And we're also seeing more growth on those networks as well, right? If you looked at the network stats 5 weeks ago, the vast majority of activity and node runners were on Ethereum. I think we're happy to see sort of a much more even distribution across networks like Polygon and Avalanche now as well. And the number of bots on those networks too is also increasing. So that's been encouraging to see. In terms of users, we have a representative list of sort of the Forta user base today. Many of the largest DeFi protocols are now using Forta. That was our goal from the beginning. I think we've largely achieved that, and we'll continue to onboard DeFi protocols in particular. Forta, this number was a lot higher a few weeks ago, but Forta is currently sort of securing over 36 billion in TVL. That's one way, one way to measure, the coverage sort of footprint of Forta. So that's an exciting number to see. And then we haven't talked a lot about subscriber numbers in the past, but we now have over 7,000 unique subscribers to Forta bots, which is pretty significant growth over the last 2 months. And then something that I know we've shared on other channels is something that we're referring to now as starter kits, which are effectively bundles of bots that are intended to make it very easy for an individual and a team to get basic monitoring in place. So we now have bundles for, DeFi threat detection, stable coins, bridges, governance, etc. And we've got a couple hundred subscribers to those starter kits now. We have a sort of a proof of concept version of those that's available on the app right now. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can go to app.forta.network, hit the monitor my contracts button, which is the red box on the right hand side of the screen, and you'll see a list of bundles there that you can subscribe to. You just need to specify which contracts you want those to monitor. So we've added those roughly 300 subscribers to the detection kits, really in the last 2 weeks. So that's been exciting to see as well. Okay. We're going to move to the second topic on the agenda. We're going to discuss Forta Proposal number 1, the Fort token holder vote on the permissionless launch. So if any of you tuned into the AMA that we did last night, East Coast time, we talked to our node runner community about the significance of this proposal, what it's intended to do. So we wanted to recap that here for a broader subset of the community. The TLDR on Forta Proposal number 1 is that this is a proposal to approve a 7-member governance council that will serve as sort of the intermediate stewards of the network for the near term. And the governance council, and why we have a council, and the structure of that council has been discussed previously. So I'm not going to rehash that here, but I guess one sort of new data point that is in that proposal are the 7 proposed members of that governance council too. So those names were not previously discussed. We are making that list available now to the community. So it is public now. I'm going to minimize this these slides real quick and move over to the post on the forum. So if you're interested in reading this proposal and reviewing sort of the mechanics of this and also learning more about the proposed members of that governance council, you can go to gov.forta.network. Let me back up here and just go back to the main page so everyone can follow along. So if you go to gov.forta.network and you haven't set up an account yet, for those of you not logged in, there'll be a button up here that says log in or sign up. So we recommend you do that first. And then under the governance process, the post that will be listed at the top is the Forta proposal for permissionless launch, FP1. And the sort of the full text of the proposal is listed there. So I just want to run through sort of the mechanics of this. So like I said, this proposal is intended to approve the proposed sort of composition of the governance council. Importantly, once that council, assuming that council is approved, following the election, the Forta Foundation will transfer control over the Forta multisigs and custodial accounts over to the council. So that's the immediate step that will happen once the council has been approved. And then once that transfer of control happens, then the council is in a position to take actions necessary to prepare for what we're calling the permissionless launch of the network. And importantly, that includes removing the whitelist on the Fort token contract so that it can be, it can be, publicly traded and available to the ecosystem. So those are the key points here in the proposal. And again, if you're interested in reading more about this, if you have questions about this, again, just as long as you're logged in to the Forta forum, you can post comments here at the bottom. And we hope there's a healthy sort of community dialogue around this. We're looking forward to interacting with the community on this. Okay, let me go back to the slides and maximize this. And then I want to welcome John Neufeld, the General Counsel of Open Zeppelin, to the stage. John, are you there?
Hey, Andy. Can you hear me all right? This is my first time.
Yep.
Okay.
And awesome. John, give me one sec. Let me stop sharing just so we can. There we go. Okay.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me, Andy, in the Forta Foundation. I think, first of all, my name's John Neufeld. As Andy said, I'm the General Counsel at Open Zeppelin. I've worked here for about 4 years, and I've been working on Forta for over a year now because of Open Zeppelin's involvement in kind of the early development and incubation of Forta. So I think initially, this is the first time I've had an opportunity to join you folks on a community call, but I do like to tune in. So thanks to Andy and all the folks who are working at the foundation these days, making these happen, doing a great job, holding these community syncs. And so, given Open Zeppelin's early involvement in Forta, we thought it would make sense for me to speak a bit about this FP1. And how it fits into Forta's kind of broader progressive decentralization story over the past year and a half, especially from my perspective, as the GC of Open Zeppelin, who has thought about this a lot over that time period. So like Andy said, if you haven't seen on the forum yet, FP1 is the first formal proposal under the Forta proposal process. And I think it really just asks the growing community of Fort token holders out there who have been earning Fort in the fortification phase whether they think the network is operating, on a decentralized basis, such that it's ready for the network to now become fully permissionless. And so there's the specific action items, like the mechanics Andy mentioned, that I'm not gonna really go through again, because I think he did a good job there of pointing those out. But how do I fit in all this? Why is my perspective on FP1 potentially interesting? Like I said, I'm the GC at Open Zeppelin. We're a blockchain security company. We help Web3 companies at every stage of the smart contract development process secure their systems. And importantly, Open Zeppelin was the company initially behind Forta. So our team incubated the project until we felt it was truly ready to be led by the community. So I thought I'd talk a bit about this path to decentralization and why I think, again, this FP1 is such an important milestone for the Forta network. And I think there's, to me, two big points I'd like to make. I think the first is the removal of the whitelist from the Fort token really will unlock the full potential of Forta as a comprehensive Web3 monitoring solution. In my mind, that means the key roles in the network, running a node, developing and deploying a threat detection bot, and signaling on it. So it separates it as a bot that is important, that people should want to have monitoring and have access to that alert. It means those roles become really permissionless, and anyone anywhere in the world can acquire those Fort tokens and therefore participate in the network and make it more powerful. I think the second point that I'd like to touch on after that is just the election of the governance council, because I think it's important that Forta as a network becomes permissionless, but it's also very important that it remains that way into the future. And I also think that although the Forta protocol is functioning well on a decentralized basis, clearly as the Web3 space evolves, the community should be able to influence the Forta network's evolution alongside the Web3 space. So maybe I'll just dive a bit deeper on the first point, and that's the removal of the whitelist that allows anyone to get Fort tokens out there and participate in the key roles in the network. You need Fort tokens before you can stake and run a node, and you need Fort tokens to be able to signal on an agent. So I think, from our perspective at Open Zeppelin, Forta becoming fully permissionless really unlocks the full potential we had envisioned for the network from the beginning. And to give you some context, when our team began working on a real-time monitoring solution for Web3, a big task, it quickly became clear that the space was growing too quickly, too complex for a centralized solution built by any one company. No centralized provider was going to be able to tackle that, or at least in a way that was really the most valuable. And as a non-technical person, I see real-time monitoring at a high level as two key tasks that need to be carried out. Like, you need to define the risk event that you want to monitor for, or it doesn't even have to be a risk event. It could be any event, really. You need to develop a bot with that risk definition, and then you need to run that bot on a block-by-block basis and determine, has that risk or that event occurred in any given block. So we realized, at the outset, how much more powerful this structure could be, these basic tasks, if really anyone anywhere across the blockchain ecosystem could apply their own unique expertise and define the risks themselves, create their own detection bots on their own, rather than Open Zeppelin, one single company that sits in one area or certain areas of the space trying to cover everything as it evolves, daily, hourly, with every new smart contract that's deployed. We said, we need to empower the community out there, everyone building out there, to be able to define these risks, including other security firms in our space, other smart contract auditors, bug bounty hunters. I think importantly, what, the stats Andy's talking about earlier, the protocols themselves and the dev teams that know that protocol inside and out, who is better positioned to understand, what needs to be monitored than that team themselves potentially. So, from the beginning, I think we always thought Forta should allow threat definition, bot development, however you want to define it, and deployment to be completely permissionless. And then the second aspect of monitoring, in my layperson simplified explanation, is running those risk definition bots, threat detection bots, against blocks. And so it was clear that, if we created this open platform where anyone could define the risks, well, clearly, one company shouldn't be trusted, or one provider, to run those bots on a block by block basis. Like Web3 deserves, given the nature of the ecosystem, the ability to rely on alerts that come from a decentralized network of nodes themselves. In this case, secured by the Fort token, which just provides more resilient infrastructure, and it doesn't present the risk of, censorship, things like fraudulent alerts, and just basic centralized points of failure. Whether that's a environmental event that affects one corner of the world, we saw the map earlier. If there's nodes running all over the world, you can feel comfortable that your alerts, at a critical time will not go out, and no bad actor could take advantage of those types of things. So given that context, I think FP1 is super important because it allows Forta to finally, realize that original vision that does allow anyone anywhere in the world to define a risk, deploy a detection bot, stake against it, signal on it, get Fort, run a node, earn more Fort. These key roles in the network become fully open. And right now in the fortification phase, that's not entirely possible. I think the metrics show it's a robust, open, decentralized platform. But I don't think until Forta is fully permissionless, like the real power and potential is unlocked. And so, from my perspective, I think, that whitelist removal, really does help kind of move and evolve the Forta forward and help it achieve its mission. So that was a lot already, but there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, which is important. It's the first thing, from a mechanical process perspective, Andy mentioned, which is the council being elected. And so I think, this initial slate of representatives, and, full disclosure, if you go and you read FP1, you'll see 2 members of the Open Zeppelin team, our CEO, Demi, and our CTO, Jonathan, are nominated there. These kind of early community members, Web3 experts, I think the election of this council is important as Forta becomes permissionless, from a technical key role aspect, because we got to make sure, it stays that way into the future. And also, the Web3 space is complex, it's rapidly expanding. Forta will surely evolve into the future alongside that. And so, we knew at Open Zeppelin, decentralization of governance was, arguably just as important as the technical decentralization underlying, the network architecture. So, when Forta really began gaining significant traction with the community earlier this year, Open Zeppelin, took steps to actually help set up the Forta Foundation with, legal objectives and a mission to basically steward the further evolution and development of Forta on behalf of its community members. And then we went and we pledged any assets, related to Forta, like the underlying smart contract, IP, even though it's public, at the end of the day, from my perspective as a lawyer, it needs an owner. So it makes that available. It holds off-chain things like GitHub repositories and importantly, the community Fort tokens. So we, made those active steps to move it out of our organization and into like a neutral community-based entity, in this case, an independent nonprofit foundation. And FP1 takes us another step further, and it puts in place, this governance council of representatives. And so, now Open Zeppelin, another member of the community, that's how we, contribute, but Forta does and will, want to evolve in the future and need, a governance process or framework to organize that. And so, I see the council as a very important, next step in the further decentralization of governance over Forta, first the foundation and now the council. And especially right now with the Forta proposal process, and then, the potential election here of the council, it presents this nice balance. And I think the balance is that at the outset, Fort token holders do not have to pay attention to every single governance action, get out and vote, which, there's so much going on in our space. I'd say most of us are involved in, multiple protocols, and to keep up with the amount of information and technical understanding, and then also, the governance processes in these different protocols, it can get exhausting at times. And so I think on one hand, the council really will allow folks to delegate, the material decision making to the council, and at the same time be able to influence that council, lobby that council, present proposals to that council whenever they want through the Forta proposal process. So I think FP1, is a really exciting and important step, towards realizing the vision, or I should say, how I see the vision of Forta, which is really a truly permissionless platform, and one that will stay that way. I think the power of an open permissionless platform, really is what is needed to tackle the tremendous, and like I said, exciting times, exciting challenge of developing real-time monitoring solution for Web3. So, we're excited to see, how Fort token holders, those folks who have been out there, working in the network, running nodes, earning Fort, think about FP1, and if they're as excited as we are about this, I would just say, take the time to read FP1 in full, and leave your thoughts, comments, share feedback. If you can answer questions for folks, that's awesome too. And then, like, most importantly, and maybe Andy, I will stop here, but I think you're going to maybe touch on how folks can vote on this. But I think the vote on Snapshot opens soon, if not already. So I think it would just be great, for everyone to let their voice be heard in that vote.
Thanks for the comments, John. Interesting to hear Open Zeppelin's perspective on this, and just speaking from the foundation, we're really thankful to have Open Zeppelin's continued support as well. Yes, so John did sort of highlight the thing I wanted to do before we wrap up this call, and I guess one thing I'll say before I bring my screen back up and show everyone the snapshot proposal and voting process. If you do have any questions about this, maybe over the next minute or two while I'm highlighting the snapshot vote, feel free to drop those in the comments. I can see the thread here, and yeah, it looks like Juan or Sam, whoever's running our public chat there, is also sharing the same message. So if you have any questions, feel free to share them, and we'll do our best to address them now or publicly in Discord immediately after the call. Okay, let me share my screen one more time. Okay. All right. Everyone should be able to see my screen. I have the snapshot voting page for FP1 up on the screen. The link to the snapshot proposal, if it hasn't already, will be shared in Discord. We may also want to post a link to it on Twitter as well. There is a summary of the proposal here on the snapshot page. There's also a link to the full proposal on the forum as well. Importantly, there's the start date and the end date to the voting period up here on the right. I'm just going to go over this, assuming that there are some of you who haven't participated in a snapshot vote before. So the vote on FP1 is now live. Looks like it's been live for just over an hour. Voting will be open until June 5th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So you have a few days to vote. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a cast your vote box. There's a yes, there's a no, and then there's the vote button. I'll also say this too. I think this is pretty intuitive, but you do need to connect your MetaMask wallet to Snapshot and use that to vote. So again, pretty straightforward. If you have any questions on the voting process, again, members of the team and our ambassadors will be here to support throughout the 5-day voting period. So feel free to ask any questions that you have. Okay. So I'm going to minimize this and go back to the comments and see if we have any questions. Okay, I see one from AASS. What will happen with the investments that Forta talked about? Will they be made into a pair or liquid according to the Fort token? I'm not sure I fully understand that question. Although looking at some of the keywords there, pairs and liquidity, I will say that when the Fort token does go, is sort of officially launched and does become sort of publicly accessible, it will be made available on both centralized and decentralized exchanges. We obviously want there to be liquidity available for prospective node runners and developers, who will need that token to stake in one of those capacities. So hopefully that addresses your question. And then a question from Aveen. Forta provides security services for smart contract users have purchased the service. If there is a security breach, what measures will Forta take to remedy or compensate? So I guess just to sort of address one premise here in the question, Forta is free to use right now. So users are not purchasing the service right now. It's a free service. So in the event of a security breach for one of our users, again, Forta is just a tool that these teams have to use. It is also not the only tool that these teams use for, related to their sort of security program and efforts. So, we certainly do our best to provide, the most sort of flexible, robust, reliable monitoring platform that we can, right? But at the end of the day, it's how those teams are using Forta, how comprehensive their monitoring is, and then also, take into account that, you can have the best monitoring and alerts in the world, but if you don't have a good plan in place to respond to those alerts in real time, if you don't have an incident or emergency response program and plan in place, then the best alerts in the world don't do you much good, right? So there's a lot of dependencies here. We are focused on providing the most sort of flexible, resilient, sort of robust monitoring network that enables teams to implement really high quality monitoring. But at the end of the day, it's dependent on the team, to implement something, that is comprehensive and also implement all those complementary, security, the security aspects. But great question. Okay, will there be a normal restake of coins on scanners so that we stake nodes with coins, they multiply from there? Got it. So, okay, all right, I think I understand that question. So current scan nodes on the network are earning Fort rewards as part of the fortification phase. There will be node runner rewards in some form after the fortification phase as well. And so that I think the question is, are Fort rewards for scan node runners sort of automatically kind of restaked and compounded? Again, I'm going to just kind of like adjust the premise of this question, because your rewards are not dependent on the amount of Fort that you stake. Your rewards, just like they are in the fortification phase, are you need to maintain a minimum stake, right, which is 500 Fort right now. And then the rewards are dependent on the performance of your node, making the SLAs. So if you maintain the highest sort of SLA over a certain period, you can earn the maximum rewards, right? But again, to qualify for that, you just need to be running a scan node, and to run a scan node, you need to have the minimum. You need to have the minimum stake. So it's a little bit, I guess, our model is based on sort of SLAs and uptime and node performance, right? It's not based on just a sort of it's not based on the amount. So hopefully that answers that question. And then Cloudbuster, when approximately will it be possible to stake Fort tokens and receive rewards for them staking without running a node? If you post this question in Discord, someone from the team can address this sort of more thoroughly than I'll be able to right now. But thanks for bringing that up. Great question. Okay, Vincent, it looks like you have a similar question. What I'll say related to voting is that once the token is live and sort of publicly tradable, it's not limited to node runners at that point. Anyone can acquire an amount of Fort and then participate in votes just like they would in any other project, right? So for the time being, for FP1, right, our the universe of potential voters is primarily maybe 99% of sort of eligible voters right now are node runners, because the Fort token is not publicly tradable, and the only members of the community that own Fort are node runners via the rewards they've been getting during the fortification phase, right? But once that token goes live, Fort will be more widely distributed across more stakeholders. So hopefully that answered your question, Vincent. Okay. All right. I'll hang out here for another 30 seconds too, in case there are others. AASS, will there be any rewards after the fortification phase, and how will they be excuse me, and how will they be distributed? Yeah, so again, node runners will continue to earn rewards. The details of those will be provided shortly, so just keep an eye out for that. But ASS, great questions. Vincent, thanks for the great questions too. Anything else from anybody? Okay. Just a reminder. Hey, John, you're back. Just a reminder, the full text of the proposal is up on our governance forum, gov.forta.network. There's also a link to that on the snapshot page. And voting is live now. So, please get in there, ask any questions, provide any feedback on the proposal. If you have any, we'd love to, we'd love to sort of engage in a dialogue with the community on FP1. And then we're looking forward, to having all the node runners vote. I will say that node runners are particularly important for this vote. We have specifically asked the early backers of Forta to abstain from voting. So this is going to be this is probably going to be the only vote where sort of node runners are kind of exclusively in control over this. So this is for all the node runners that are tuning in, this is really your opportunity here. AASS, yeah, how much does it make sense to run additional nodes? So again, as a node runner, you are compensated for hitting certain SLA thresholds, and that is per node. So there's nothing stopping you from running more than one node on a network, and more than one node across multiple networks as well, right? I think it's some of the burden for determining whether or not that's going to be sort of financially viable for you is sort of determining what are your costs for running those additional 10 nodes, right, and whether the rewards make sense. So I think that's it's a calculation that node runners are going to have to do, but we obviously want to make it sort of financially viable for anyone, an individual, and or a large sort of professional validator to run Forta infrastructure, right? Okay. All right. I don't see any other explicit questions here. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Thanks for the great questions. If you have any further questions about fortification phase, because I know that it looked like there was a decent amount of sort of interest around some of the details of that. If you have any questions about the proposal, if you have any questions about Snapshot, please share those in Discord, and someone from the team, one of our ambassadors, will get back to you shortly. Okay. Have a great rest of the day, sort of afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Appreciate you tuning in. John, did you have anything you wanted to share before we close?
No, just thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining. We'll definitely have you back on another one.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.